Hey guys, welcome back. Today I want to show you something pretty cool. Not the crane arm visuals, still working on that part. No, today I want to show you the very beginnings of networked play in means. So basically online multiplayer. Now as we've been developing gameplay features such as this crane arm here, there's been a lot of talk about clients, servers, sending data over the network, etc., etc. And sometimes it feels a little unnecessary to do all that, considering means is supposed to be mostly a single player game. But today I want to show you that since we've been following the sort of proposed recommendations, the proposed way of designing gameplay code in Basis, using networked features like clients, servers, propagated values, pipes, all of this stuff, we can actually start to reap the benefits of that quite easily. So be prepared for glitches and bugs, and I know at least of a couple of things that are a little gnarly currently with the way we are doing things, but let's see how it works out. So first of all, how would we actually even launch a multiplayer game? We haven't really done any multiplayer specific development at all. So let's go into the launch configuration. Launch configuration in Visual Studio Code. Here we have, for example, the release launch. Typically we're running with this play level command line argument, which just boots the game right into this level that we've been working with for some time now. If I add something to the name, like an like an underscore like this, we can effectively skip that argument, and we get into this horrible temporary main menu, which is rendered using the goofy UI system that we've talked about before. There's this multiplayer button here, which looks promising but actually doesn't do anything. So we need to hook that up to something. Let's have a look. Here we have the script for the main menu currently, and you can see the multiplayer button here. It executes this action called main menu start multiplayer. So let's search for that in the project. We can see it's represented by this constant here. And if we look for that constant, we can see that we set an action callback for that constant. The action callback is set to onStart multiplayer, which runs a message, sends a message rather, and the message is then never used for anything. We define it here in the enum, we register it as a message with the proper category, and then we send it. But we don't do anything with it. So we can compare it with something like UI main menu exit, which we do the same thing with, but we also react to this message here in the client main menu state. So this is the place that we need to add things to make that button do something. So basically I'm gonna copy this case here and replace the UI main menu exit with UI main menu start multiplayer. And so this basically, it runs, when you exit the game, it runs a screen fade with callback from transparent to black over a quarter of a second, and then runs this function. So let's copy this as well and rename it something like on MP fade completed and run that instead. You could of course just run that directly, but typically we try to do like screen fades or something, some kind of nice little transition between the screens. That's why it's wrapped up this way. And then the thing we want to do is we want to start a transition. So exit from main menu. There is a whole state machine managing the flow of the game. And I happen to know that unless you specifically remove it, the engine comes with this kind of play multiplayer transition. Let's try to build this. So you can of course customize the flow completely to your liking, add new menu screens, remove ones you don't need, etc., etc. But essentially the engine comes with a built-in debug multiplayer state, which makes it reasonably easy to start and test multiplayer games. So now let's see what happens. Click multiplayer. We get into this weird looking screen. This is not actually rendered using Goofy. This is rendered using the engine internal UI library, which is a very old thing I wrote about 15 years ago, which is, you can see that the text is kind of a little blurry. There's no graphics really. You can essentially just create buttons and basic UI elements with this. And this screen is essentially sort of hard-coded into the engine. It sits here if you want to use it. You don't have to use it if you don't want to. But this is a way to create a very basic multiplayer game. If you want to test it out, you can create internet games, which we currently can't because we don't have any lobby servers running. But we can create a LAN game. So you can see game name. You can even give the game a name. Currently, the player by default in the engine is called Rookie, unless you go and change it. It's not really visible in the single player anywhere. But in multiplayer, each player needs to have some name. They can be the same. Doesn't matter. Use a password for the game, and you can create max players. Right. So now we are running a game already, but we're in the lobby, and we can select a level from the menu, and we can even say something, hello. So we can start this, and it should look essentially the same as it usually does. Most of this stuff should work exactly the same, actually. Perhaps the biggest difference is that if we pause the game, you can see that the game actually no longer pauses. It says paused, but it's not paused because you can't really. Well, you can pause a multiplayer game, but it will then pause it for all players, and that's a bit silly. So just going to the menu here actually doesn't pause the game. And if we go back here to the menu, we go back to the lobby. The game is technically still running. And now that we're sitting in the lobby, other players can join. You can see here that actually the server says, when we got back to the menu, the server writes enable LAN discovery. So now we can leave this, and now the game is properly shut down. You can see here the server deinitializing its network objects and all of this. So let's have a quick test in multiplayer and see how the game performs. And yeah, prepare for extreme breakage. So in the interest of being able to record this somewhat easily, I'm going to run two games. Yes, I want to start another instance. I'm going to run two games on the same screen, just side by side like this. Yes, and as you may or may not know, Basis is a client-server system, which means that whoever creates the game, you can see the aspect ratio is a bit weird, so these get kind of squished together, but doesn't matter. Whoever creates the game actually runs the server. So now we have a game created here on this side. Let's try to join it here. Join LAN game, and it's finding available games. And it found Rookie's game. Yay! You can just refresh this. Without a lobby server, you can't use this for games on the internet. They need to be on the same local network. And if we now click join here, you can see Rookie joined the game. And you can go, yo. Whoever started the game and runs the server is the one who gets to actually start. Whoever created the game is the one who gets to start the game. We could run with some other level, but I think that the proto test level that we've been using is the most interesting here. So let's go into the game. Okay, so typically what we do at this point is we spawn under the world. The world origin is down here, which is a little silly. So typically we do something like this. We go here and we set this as the avatar, right? But if we try to do this on this side, I'm need to orientate myself. You can see that we can't actually do it here. And that's because the server is the one who actually dictates who gets to be what object. But what we can do is we can set our avatar here in this game. So now we can see that, yay, we can drive around. Things are basically working. But actually, what we do when we run this command here is you can see the command output here in the console. Game state set avatar base test vehicle 1 and then 1. So this is the name of the object. 1 is the host ID, which is always 1 for the server player, the player who created the game. So this guy here. And all the other players then get a number that is increased linearly. So this would be number 2 in this case. And yeah, this command can just be run from the command prompt, so from here basically. So if we want to assign this this object to this player, what we can do is let's move this guy back to their object camera. We can copy the name, so the name is base truck 3, and then we can do game state set avatar. We copy that in and we give host ID 2. And there we go. So now this player is using this object as their avatar. And yeah, basic gameplay seems to work. Obviously these objects don't have that much new stuff in them, but it's nice to see that our Zig components actually work correctly with networking as well. There's quite a bit of work involved in actually getting these cars input, for example, to be propagated correctly. But yes, seems to work okay. That's fun. So let's have a look. Let's use this as our avatar on the server side, and maybe we can do we can have this guy as the player on the other side. I have some debug menus activated there, so let's see how our crane works. Right? How does the crane work? Let's position it here in a reasonably optimal place, and we can start to move this thing around. And you can see the crane getting synchronized properly, or at least somewhat properly. Alright, can we lift this thing? Let's lower the thing there. That's pretty good. Okay. And what happens if we try to lift it? Yeah, that kind of works. It kind of works. Can we drive around? It kind of works as well. Our camera is intersecting with the mother vehicle a little bit on this side. Like you can still control this car here if you want to. I mean, it doesn't help because he's being carried around in the air, but you can do that. I mean, I'm not sure this is really gameplay that's relevant to the means project, but it could be, and it seems to work reasonably well, at least on like the same machine. I'm sure all of this would just break horribly now if we at this point if we tried to play it over the internet. But yeah, okay, we actually got stuck here. Let's extend the cable a little bit. There we go. All right, you can go. That's fine. Right, so I had a script here. Let's see, where are we in the level? We're roughly in the place where the mother vehicle originally spawns. I had a script here which spawns some cargo for us. Here we go. Ooh, boom. So it spawned like below or behind that vehicle over there. So I mean, we could do something like this. You could have a game mode or some mission where you need to sort of collaborate with someone and kind of pick up these kinds of things and maybe load them into another truck or something. Let's see how this works. This is all very, very scary because I haven't really been testing this properly. So can we pick up one of those guys? Yeah, we can. You can see here that the distance between the two are sometimes quite large. Like it performs a raycast down, and it's not a very long raycast. I think it's like 1 world unit or something. And if it hits something within that raycast, then it essentially attaches it to the magnet, but the object doesn't need to be completely attached to the thing. That would be it would be really kind of annoying to try to pick something up if that was the case. So let's copy this name and let's use that as the avatar for the other player. All right, where do you want me to park this thing? For the loading, let's see. Let's just back up here or something. This looks like a good place to load cargo into the truck. I don't know why I get that spawn that debug action menu. There's something with me running 2 of these games at the same time. But oh well. So yeah, this is how one can run a very simple multiplayer game in Basis. And obviously, if we were to actually, like, I'm not sure if I want to really have any multiplayer in Means, at least in the beginning. But if I do, obviously I would put a lot of effort into like making these all these features, like for example the selection of the avatar. All of that would be automatic so that you don't have to run these commands. But since we haven't been doing any multiplayer development essentially at all, except for the aforementioned like adhering to some of the best practices, and that is essentially the only thing we've done, but we haven't really been doing any multiplayer like quality of life things, which means that all of that is still sort of work to be done if we wanted this to be a proper full multiplayer game. But yes, things do work. I know there's a bug currently with if you're running the server on its own thread and the server gets a significantly higher frame rate than the clients, then there's some issues with the sending of the data from the server to the client. Things like this. It's really not ready for prime time, but as like a very quick test, I think this is actually kind of fun, and you can immediately see that yeah, this could be kind of interesting as a cooperative thing, because Basis handles interactions between physics objects in a networked environment like this, for example, quite well. It's considered to be one of the trickier things to get right. And I'm sure my implementation is not super robust, but as you can see, like it kind of works, and I'd say it's probably good enough for the cooperative experience. Like I wouldn't build like a competitive shooters or anything with this network model. It's really not robust enough for that, but for a co-op thing, yeah, sure, I think it would do just fine. So that's a small look into multiplayer. Sort of a tangent, but I realized that, hey, this should probably work, and I just wanted to show you some fun things. Next time we'll be back working on the game itself again. Anyway, if you have any questions or comments or ideas or feedback, be sure to leave that in the comments below. Next video should be up relatively soon, and I hope to see you then. Bye.